What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today we are talking underwater alien bases, and specifically some comments that Tim Burchett made on a Newsmax interview.
You received intelligence that suggests that there are perhaps deep water alien bases right now sitting on the ocean floor on this planet. Is that accurate?
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Now, please, Vetters, hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, y'all. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I need your help. All right, so let's jump into this full clip and see what this is all about. Tim Burchett talking about underwater alien bases, y'all.
Sorry to cut you off, sir. You received intelligence that suggests that there are perhaps deep water alien bases right now sitting on the ocean floor on this planet. Is that accurate?
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Can you go into more detail? How long have they been here? Where are they?
Well, I'm extrapolating all this with my East Tennessee vernacular. So we've got five or six deep water areas of our oceans. We actually know more about the surface of the moon than we do about these areas. And these are areas where we have a high frequency of UFO or UAP sightings. We've had naval folks have told me pretty high up that they've actually tracked these things. Now, we have stuff that can go underwater probably 30 to 40 miles an hour, maybe something a little faster that the Chinese haven't stole from us yet. And we've tracked things big as a football field going 200 miles an hour. Now, I realize in the water you extrapolate that to knots and all that, but just for good old East Tennessee common sense, 200 miles an hour, something the size of a football field, and we don't know what it is. And these are in these areas, so yeah, there's something going on there. And whether it's something that's been here for millennial or whatever, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm kind of like Dr. Loeb. I love to study this kind of stuff. It's the scientific material there is he's the one that disclosed some things that were found that were extraterrestrial in our oceans, and he's brave enough, I believe, to come forward with those. So I'm looking forward to some more talks about this. But I think I've kicked the hornet's nest because it was just in a casual conversation with a blogger, and I discussed it. It wasn't in a classified setting, so I could talk about it. But I always remember the last thing this one high-ranking official told me as he left my office. He was right close to me as I am to my phone in my barn right now. And he said, Tim, they're real.
All right, so a few things about this clip, right? One is that he's just so certain of that this is the case. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of people in the UFO community who make these claims, and we'll get to that in just a second. But he also talked about this particular sort of clip or video that he made with this, quote, blogger while he was just out walking the streets of DC. I've got that clip, the one that he talked about. Take a look.
What if these are entities that are here on this earth, that have been on this earth, that who knows how long, and that we think they're coming in from way out. Maybe they did a millennial ago, but they're here and they're in these deep water areas. And that's why, like we say, we know more about the face of the moon than we do what's going on there. And we have a higher propensity of sightings around these 5 or 6, I believe, deep water areas. And so to me, it just it creates a question there. And then when we have naval personnel telling me that we have these sightings and that there's these underwater craft they're chasing that are doing hundreds of miles an hour, and the best we've got is something that does maybe just a little under 40 miles an hour. So I got a lot of questions about that stuff, and I mean,
So it sounds more like he's just spitballing, but the honest truth is he has talked about this before in a more a matter-of-fact way like he just did on Newsmax. Take a look at this interview.
But there are 5 deep sea areas. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do these areas. And Boebert scratched the surface of it. We only get 5 minutes, and they don't want these answers brought out too much. There are 5 deep sea areas, and there's a lot more, as they call it, activity. And I've talked to some people off the record about that, and the ability for these things that we've seen in the video, the one video where they fly under the water and then come out, we have nothing of that capability. So I think we ought to look at that. The ability of something to fly, as I state, every night I go out with my dogs. They go to the bathroom. They won't go to the bathroom when I go to bed. They got to go at 4 o'clock in the freaking morning. So I'll go out there and look at those stars. And the stars, the light from those stars literally left that star before the time of Christ. So, you're talking about the vastness of God's universe. It is beyond our mental capacity. So the ability for something to travel that far, I think, is very difficult. I think something could be here that is not of our origin.
Okay, so you can see he's talked about this before. And again, he's not the only one. And he's also referencing Lauren Boebert, who brought it up in the November 2024 UFO hearing.
Counts of UAPs emerging from or submerging into our water, which could indicate a base or presence beneath the ocean's surface.
I don't know about a base, but as I mentioned, I had a different source entirely describe this pretty extraordinary footage that exists of orbs, of an orb coming out of the ocean and being met by another orb.
Some would say that there's multiple hotspots where we see frequent activity. So in your investigations, have you come across any data or visual evidence like sonar readings or underwater footage of these UAPs?
I have not beyond what's in the report.
And of course, Tim Burchett brought up Tim Gallaudet, who has made mention of this before and who actually testified in that same November 2024 hearing. And he didn't say anything about bases in that under oath, which is interesting. But when he's not under oath and on podcast, Tim Gallaudet does kind of bring up these bases.
And you have a friend you mentioned as well in the Merge podcast that actually checked out some coordinates out under the Catalina or nearby the Catalina Islands. Amazing effort there. Can you explain what he found and what your thoughts are on that area?
Right. That was interesting. There is a geologic feature that I described on Ryan's show that right now I've not been able to find a natural explanation for. It looks like a wedge taken off a thing called a knoll. It looks like an underwater ridge, basically. And a wedge from it was totally carved out and horizontally displaced 2 kilometers. It's on the seafloor. It's at a depth of about 700 meters. And of course, I just want to find an explanation for it, but it does cause one to speculate. Is that evidence of undersea UAP interaction with the seafloor, or a location for undersea infrastructure where these things go?
And of course, we always have Danny Sheehan willing to talk about these underwater alien bases. And he might be the one who's talked about it the most and been so matter of fact that he even reveals the location of where he thinks one of these is.
Bases here on our planet, many of which are located high in the desolate areas in the mountains, where very few people ever go, and beneath the sea. There's a major base in the Pacific that we're virtually certain exists off Baja, between Baja and Guadalupe Island, potentially beneath the ocean floor. This has been monitored. We have hundreds of videos of the vehicles coming and going from that location and plunging into the sea. And going down into and coming from this base. This is extraordinarily important for everyone to understand. Very importantly, there is some percentage inside our national security state apparatus that knows this to be true.
But at the end of the day, are there alien bases? Are there not underwater? I don't know, right? But Danny seems to be quite certain, and that location has been brought up multiple times, as well as by Tim Gallaudet and many others. But if you really want the best overall discussion about sort of unidentified submerged objects, USOs, or alien underwater bases, we really got to go to Richard Dolan. And luckily, I got to interview Richard Dolan not too long ago when his book came out about USOs, and we talked about alien bases. I'll put a link in the description to the full interview, but for now, here's a clip from that interview. Let's briefly talk about these alien bases that I did hear you bring up in the Jeremy Corbell interview, actually, because I made a video about it. I was like, oh, alien base. I love talking about alien bases.
Oh, right. Yeah.
For Danny Sheehan talk about it, extensively, made several videos on it. I just find that idea so fascinating that there could be these bases that are just right under our nose and all over the place. So let's just kind of break in. Like, what is when we say alien base, like, what are we saying exactly?
I think that's a great question. I think I don't know that I can say I know exactly where they are. Some people might feel that way, but I can say I've got a pretty decent guess as to where I think they probably would be based on the activity that I have recorded in my research. I have on my Google Earth, I have a yellow pin on every single case with the date, when it happened, and so forth.
Wow.
I've got them organized by decade. I can say I want to look at all the cases from the 1960s, and I can do that. So it's very well organized. So I can say that there's a few places that look very interesting to me. One is north of Puerto Rico. If I had to throw money down at any one location, I would say somewhere near the Puerto Rico Trench.
Look, the truth is the ocean is vast. And what we know about the ocean is so minimal. There could be more down there than we know, and there are a lot of stories. I'm still not convinced yet, but I'm definitely open-minded.
Knowledge of the oceans is more than a matter of curiosity. Our very survival may hinge upon it. The seas offer a wealth of food for the people of the world. Mineral resources on land will ultimately reach their limits. We may be able to extract additional elements in the water. To predict, and perhaps someday to control, changes in weather and climate is of the utmost importance to man everywhere. These changes are controlled to a large and yet unknown extent by what happens in the ocean. Additional research is necessary to identify the factors in this interplay. These are some of the reasons which compel us to embark upon an important national effort in oceanography. This is not a one-year program or even a 10-year program. It is the first step in a continuing effort to acquire and apply the information about a part of our world that will ultimately determine conditions of life in the rest of the world. The opportunities are there. A vigorous program will capture those opportunities.
All right, vetters, as always, links down in the description. Let me know what you think. Are his sources correct? Do we actually have these underwater bases? Are we 100% certain of this? And what evidence are people seeing or proof? Not just evidence, but compelling evidence. What compelling evidence or proof are they showing Tim Burchett to make him think that? Or is it, again, just words? Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace!
Hey, Patrick. Love your show. Been listening for a while. My name is Sal. I live on Long Island on the North Shore. I'm 68 years old. I'm a lifelong experiencer. So I've seen quite a few crafts and even some of them at times. But I guess the one I want to tell you about is in Sicily. I was there on vacation with my nephew on a mountain called Mount Ramello. And he's an experiencer too. And I was visiting him in Sicily. And I said, let's go find a UFO. And so we went up the top of the mountain and I summoned a UFO. It was amazing. But it was translucent. It was blue. It went right over our heads. He couldn't believe it. He's my witness. It was like a interdimensional craft came out of nowhere, and it was like beautiful. It was this beautiful blue translucent craft. So that's my story in Sicily, but I have many, many more. if you want, to share more, let me know. Thank you.